everyone, welcome to Overcharged Plasma Gaming. We are doing our yet to be named series. Put your name suggestions down in the comments below, but kind of like rapid fire questions about a faction, a TLDR if you will. And we're joined today by Gavin, who's driven up.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Yeah, so we're going to get into who Gavin is, because you might not remember him from the first battle report we did in the channel, where he infamously told me a Necron door has an invulnerable save.
You know, like, just make the rules up as you go, guys. It all works out in the end.
But he's here going to be playing the new AdMech, which do have invulnerable saves pretty much across the board.
Oh yeah, like everything has an invulnerable save in AdMech.
Yeah, it seems to be the way of things with Dark Elder AdMech and Sisters.
Yeah.
6 of invulnerables or better. But anyway, so without much further ado, I'm going to awkwardly scoot off camera and ask Gavin some questions about AdMech, and Gavin, who's our resident expert on AdMech, no pressure.
Aye.
We'll just give you the details on them, who they are, how they play, and most importantly, how to beat them, because they need beating. So anyway, I'll see you at the end of the video. I'm just going to awkwardly scoot over there.
Not awkward at all, Chris.
Not awkward at all, no. It was the smoothest transition ever. So, as I bring up my notes, because I'm very well organised, Gavin, hello.
Hello.
Can you tell us who the AdMech are?
So the AdMech, or the Adeptus Mechanicus, basically compose the Imperium of Man's almost the entirety of their engineers and scientists. They do all of the research for them, and are also holding a monopoly on basically all of the ship, weapon, and vehicle manufacture for the entire Imperium. They originally hailed from the planet Mars, but obviously as the Imperium's expanded, they've colonized other Forge worlds, or other worlds which they call Forge worlds. And basically, as a group, they worship a different god to the rest of the Imperium, and instead worship the Omnissiah, or Machine God. And they believe the highest honor that they can have is to cybernetically convert their bodies to being more machine. Hence why they look very metallic and are half man, half machine. You'll find that the highest members of the orders, like the tech priests, they are basically more machine than man now, while the lower members of the order are still more organic.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you. And what can they do in the battlefield?
So, AdMech are probably one of, if not the best shooting faction around. I'd probably think Tal's a little bit better at shooting.
Well, ripped out.
Although, ripped out at the moment. But their shooting is amazing. Like, it's just volleys of blistering fire that will absolutely punish anyone that gets out of position. And they can rip you apart before you get to their lines. However, the issue with AdMech at the moment is there are no slouches in melee either, so you kind of have a bit of a double threat just now. Also, they, as well as like hosting like vast numbers of troops, they also come into battle wielding various different kind of weapons from the dark ages of the Imperium, as well as war machines, which they repair really easily on the battlefield. So you'll find that even if you do damage to an AdMech unit, a couple of turns later, if you've not killed it off, a tech priest probably got it back up to like pretty much high health again. So
yeah, and they've got some of the best planes, right?
Oh yeah, they've got probably the best planes in the game just now.
Yeah,
they're really, really amazing.
Disgustingly cheap planes. So what are some of the armor-wide abilities? And I know this is going to be a long one for the AdMech that they bring to the battlefield, and how do they work?
So, army-wide abilities. So there are two, well, you've obviously got the standard OBSEC on all troops. That's kind of ubiquitous with all factions now. But as well as that, you tend to have, there's one ability which allows you to, for each detachment you take, you can bring an Imperial Knight Super Heavy detachment for alongside them, and include that detachment in at no detriment to the army. So that's one ability, but the two main ones that they have is Canticles of the Omnissiah and Imperator Doctrines. So Canticles of the Omnissiah affect Cult Mechanicus units. These can include things like Shroud Sam, which lets all units with that ability get cover. There's another one which lets you get +1 to strength when you make melee attacks. There's another one which allows you to, every time you activate with unit, they can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, 1 damage roll. Another one for -1 to hit. So at the start of each battle round, you can choose one of your canticles to apply that turn. You cannot choose one that you have already used, and therefore, like, you can basically tailor your army each turn to whatever you feel you need. Doctrine Imperatives, though, are probably more commonplace now than canticles, and they affect all Skitarii models, which make up the vast majority of the AdMech nowadays. And that basically allows you to, there's 4 of them, and basically you can choose 1 per turn. Again, you can't choose one that you've already used. And they are, you can improve the weapon skill by 1, you can improve the ballistic skill by 1, you can improve the save by 1, and you can improve the movement by 3. But each time you do those, there's a negative to it. So when you improve the ballistic skill, you decrease your weapon skill. When you improve your weapon skill, you decrease your ballistic skill. And when you improve your save, you decrease your move, and vice versa with the move. Those are the main army-wide abilities. Obviously, characters and things have various abilities to themselves as well. And then you have the Forge Worlds, which all give various different buffs to their armies too.
What would be the main Forge Worlds that people would see?
So the main Forge Worlds you'll see nowadays, Mars was always a big one in 8th Ed. Mars is still pretty good. It's one of the top ones. Basically, it allows all Skitarii units to get Canticles of the Messiah, which is seriously strong. But you cannot, when you build in Mars, you have to obviously tailor to Mars, and same with all the other ones. So each Forge World you take, I'm just going to tailor in a slightly different way. So Mars is strong. Lucius, which is what I run half of my army as, is you get +1 to save against damage on weapons, and you get an extra 3 inches to your range. And they give you access to a Warlord trait and Relic, which allow you to, the Relic lets you do like a Veil of Darkness or redeploy in the first turn, well, any turn, outside 9 inches of enemy units. And the Warlord trait allows you to pick a friendly unit and they get Transhuman for a turn, which is rather nice.
Yeah.
The other ones that are good, Styges are quite nice. They're basically all about infiltration. And then Ryza is also quite good. They basically have the Blood Angels ones. So +1 to charge and +1 to wound when you charge, word charged, or Hurricane intervene.
It's also worth noting that you can build your own Forge Worlds.
Yes, so there are Forge Worlds which you can build by yourselves. So they get things like vehicles can get reroll all hits when they're within half range and things like that.
Yeah.
But those, there's a couple of different options for those.
We don't quite know what's going to be the meta of the make your own. Right now, people are focusing on the pre-made Forge Worlds because they've got the Warlord traits and the stratagems to complement them.
The Warlord traits and the stratagems you can get from the pre-made Forge Worlds are just really good, and they benefit your army so much that I've not heard anyone really talking about the custom Forge Worlds yet.
Yeah.
But it'll come.
So what are some of the key units?
So the key units, where to start? There's
a
lot of them.
Pick 3 for TLDR's sake.
So your standard HQ choice is going to be some form of Tech Priest, whether that is Engineers, Manipulus, or Dominus. You're going to want at least 1 Tech Priest in your army. They heal your machines, they give out really good buffs to your units, like you can give a unit basically +1 AP to their weapons. You can also upgrade them to being one of the Holy Orders, of which there are 4 now. One of those Holy Orders lets you basically ignore AP 1 and 2 for a turn on a unit. And also the Holy Orders also let you reduce the cost of one of the stratagems by 1. There is no minimum to the cost of those stratagems, so you can reduce the stratagem to 0 once per game if you like. So the Holy Orders are really good. So that's my... If you're going with HQ, you need to have a Tech Priest. In terms of troops, Rangers and Vanguards are both excellent. And basically they're going to be like your kind of bulk of your forces if you're trying to like take objectives and things. They're going to be a good fallback to go on. They've got really good weapons with lots of shots, pretty good range as well. so they can be quite dangerous, despite the fact they're toughness 3 with a 4 6. They can be a bit squishy, but they are good. And then finally, I'd say my other key pick is sterilizers, Thraxes. These little lovely guys here. Purely because of the amount of jank they can do in a game. They got so many good abilities in the Codex, and they can really just mess with people's backlines and people's game plan, because they can use stratagems to keep units locked in combat. They can just boost away at the end of the turn, on the turn that they came in as well, so your opponent just can't interact with them at all.
It's worth noting at this point that that would probably be FAQ to
that
combine with the other stratagems like this in the game, where you can't use it on the turn that they are deployed, but it's still a very, very, very strong stratagem.
Yeah, like as well, they all have flamers as well, so they can drop it 9 inches away, flame you with 96 flamer shots if you're running full squad, and then charge in if they're in a specific, if they're in the Ryza Forge World, they can jump in and get +1 to wound, etc., with lots of attacks. They are nasty.
And still jump away, so you can jump away when you're in combat, which is ridiculous.
But obviously, as Chris has said, the jump away ability will get changed at some point. We know that's going to happen because it's just way too good at the moment. So
some TOs are already FAQing it over in the States, I'm aware of that. But anyway, moving on, so I don't get too salty. Moving on, what are some of the key combos? So you've already talked about a few of them. Just tell us like one more key combo.
So the Thraxi one is really, really good. I've obviously spoken about that. The other ones which are really good is the combination of basically having, it's not a unit that I'm playing at the moment, but Castellan robots obviously do quite a lot of damage. They have less shots than they used to have in 8th Ed, but they still do a lot of damage, and when you combine them with specific characters, basically you can change their protocols every turn, so you can basically like benefit them in key turns when you need them to do more damage, which is really, really good for them, and they can still output a lot of hurt on your opponent in both shooting and combat.
Cool. How do they win games, and what are their favourite secondaries that they want to take?
So, one of the favourite secondaries at the moment is one called Eradication of Flesh. So it's a AdMech specific secondary where if you have at least one vehicle unit on the battlefield, and if you kill in the entire round more enemy infantry units than they kill off vehicle units from your army, you get 3 points. So if you take an army which is basically wholly infantry with like a couple of vehicle units, you can just hide the vehicle units at the back for like a good majority of the game if you think they're going to die, and then just have your infantry units kill off their infantry units and you get more points. So that's the really good secondary that benefits them. Otherwise, how they're going to win the games is, it varies depending on how you play them. So if you play them as a gunline faction, you're probably going to be sitting at the back trying to shoot the opponent off the board before they get into you. The way I'm probably playing my AdMech is I play them in like groups of hordes. So basically they can jump across the battlefield really quickly and basically just grab the objectives early on. And because I've got them as Lucius, they are quite tough, so they're hard to then shift off the objectives once they're on them, and therefore they just win by board control. Despite the fact they can table people quite nicely as well if you get it going. So they are one of those armies that you kind of have to be aware of. They could sit back or they could push forwards, and you're probably going to have to tailor your game plan against them accordingly depending on what they do.
Yeah. So a question you may not like to answer: how can you beat AdMech?
So against AdMech, they are probably one of the top factions at the moment with this new Codex. They are, the number of abilities that they have is amazing. They have so many things that they can fall back on as well, that even if you take out one part of their army, they still have ways of winning games. I'd probably say at the moment the best kind of stuff against AdMech, if you're up against Lucius, 2 damage weapons is obviously really, really good because they get their bonuses against 1 damage. But basically, in general, their combat is generally weaker than their shooting. So if you can kind of get them in combat, it does help. But even then, it is tough to take them out in combat. I would also say, like, if you're up against them, you need to have some form of infiltrator. Like, anything that can start in the midfield, because it'll stop them being able to jump out onto the objectives as early as they'd like to. I run my army with infiltrators in my AdMech list, and if I'm on the middle objectives turn 1, it's really, really hard to get me off them. So if you've got an infiltrator to like counter deploy my infiltrators, it's always going to be beneficial to you, and that's going to get you on top of the game.
And that more than just AdMech do that. It's worth pointing out. There's Outrunners list which loves jumping forward early, using forward deploy shenanigans. Every army needs some, just one unit which you can throw away so that you have a chance of winning that roll off and making it mean something.
The game at the moment is very much coming down to who can control the center of the battlefield.
Yeah.
If you can control the center, you can basically win a game. And if you lose the center in the first couple of turns, you're going to struggle to kind of hold enough points back in the late game. So you really need to try and have that central board control, I feel.
And final question, can you break down a list for us? Now this could be the list you're running in the battle report today, it could be a different list you've seen online, dealer's choice.
Yeah, so what I'm going to be running in our battle reports today, because it's the army I'm most familiar with, so I can actually give you good info about it, is a mix of Lucius and Ryza. So, Chris basically noting down notes at the moment to see how he can beat me. So I've got one battalion detachment of Lucius that comprises of 2 Manipuluses and a Skitarii Marshal, which gives out buffs to Skitarii units and allows reroll wounds, basically acting like a lieutenant kind of character. I then have 1 unit of 20 Rangers, 2 units of 20 Vanguard, I then have 3 units of 2 Iron Strider Skitarii with blast cannons, just for that nice, A, gets me eradication of flesh because they're vehicle units, and B, they have really nice damage output against vehicles.
Are they core? I actually don't know.
They are core.
Of course they're core.
Yeah, so the Lucius Relic, which is basically I can pick up a core unit and drop them away 9 inches from your line, I can do that on Iron Strider Skitarii. Not that you want to, but you can do it if you want to. So yeah, like, if Chris can just like put up, we've got a little table of like all of the AdMech keywords on one of our group chats. If Chris can just put that up here, like in anything, just to show off like the amount of keywords that AdMech have access to and what they actually do, because the amount of core stuff in the AdMech book is nuts at the moment.
Anyway, so triple Iron Strider
Skitarii, that's all Lucius. That's my first battalion detachment. And then I have a Ryza detachment, which is comprised of a Vanguard, and it is a Skitarii Marshal. And then I have 3 units of 9 Skitarii Infiltrators with Taser Golds and Flechette Blasters. And finally, I have a unit of Taurasi Skystalkers, which are maxed out at a squad of 10. The Taurasi unit I spend a pre-game stratagem on to give the alpha of the unit a relic, so that when he is with it at the start of the shooting phase, I roll dice for every vehicle unit that the opponent has within 12 inches of them. And on a 2 to 3 they take 1 mortal wound, on a 4 to 5 they take D3, and on a 6 they take flat 3. So he can nicely deal out damage to vehicles. My Warlord's in my Lucius detachment, and basically he's all about giving out buffs to basically make the units unkillable, because you can get transhuman, ignore EP 1 and 2, cover. It's really, really nice. They're really tough to shift when you start pumping out all the buffs onto them. So my basic kind of game plan is that the main Lucius stuff is really hard to kill, because Lucius is designed for that. And then Ryza stuff is for deploying and can deal a lot of damage while being annoying and harassing to my enemies.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Gavin, for... I'm just going to awkwardly
shuffle back into frame.
Well, thank you, Gavin, for giving us a lowdown on AdMech. Yeah, we're hopefully going to be able to showcase some of what Gavin talked about in a panel report we're going to film next. And I have remembered to press the record button. You'll be very pleased.
Yes!
So you're not getting in a special of talking to a wall for up to an hour between the two videos that we filmed.
Yeah.
So we're going to end the video here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think. Does this help you out? Does this help you prepare for the AdMech onslaught that will be coming to a GT near you?
And if anyone has any questions about AdMech, I will be kicking around the YouTube comment section.
Yeah.
If people want to ask me questions, I can answer them for you.
Yes, our resident expert will be on hand to give you full unsighted answers, right?
Yeah.
Do all the research for you so you don't have to. You okay with that, Gavin?
Yeah, sure. When I have time.
Yeah, you're not busy, are you?
No, just a full-time job.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, we're gonna say bye for now. And yeah, like, comment, and subscribe.
Cheers, guys.
Peace out.